Daf Yud Midot. We started it last time, but we really have to review. The truth is, we have to review. I think I gave this caveat last week in the shir. I'm going to repeat it now in case I didn't say it. I'm saying it now for the first time. So no, that's all right. It actually is helping me to focus my thoughts. With very little exception, I understand almost nothing from the next lines that we will read. Meaning, I understand the words. I could translate them, but it doesn't bring me much closer personally to understanding how the Ribono Shel Olam runs the world. It leaves me with many questions, and so goes the word about Yisrael, ki saritam Elokim v'im anashim v'tuchal. The struggle. You have to struggle with the questions. Sometimes you have to live with the questions, and to try to understand them. Sometimes it's beyond us. And we'll see some examples of that now. I would say the parts that I do understand are the parts that basically seem to be codified by the Rambam in Hilchot Tshuva, in Perek Gimmel. You'll see what I mean as we review. I don't know if you remember from last week, we sort of made a lane in it, but I thought we should read it in a little more of an in-depth way, have a discussion about it, if only to flesh out the questions, if nothing else. And I'm actually, so you could call it like a Chazara shir. Daf Yud Zayin Amud Bet. I'm starting again from the Vayavor Hashem al Panav Vayikra. We noted last time that there's an ambiguity about who's Vayavor Hashem al Panav shall me, right? So we saw that it sounds like, at least the way that it's being understood by Rabbi Yochanan, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, as it were, covering his own face. Right? I'm on page 17b. What is it, about 6, 7, 8 lines down from the top? And started by Vayavor Hashem. The beginning word on the page is Chesed, and then you have Vayavor Hashem al Panav Vayikra. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ilmali mikra katuv i'afshar la'omro. If not the fact that it was written, one could not say such a thing. Meaning, the imagery is very specific, and it's very human. And that is challenging. What does it mean to say that a Kodesh Baruch Hu is, it looks like a Shliach Tzibur? But that's what he explains. All right, so he showed him how to daven. Let them go through this order, I will forgive them. Let them go through this order. Yasu, as many point out, the Chavetz Chaim was probably more among more recent people, but right, the idea of Yasu, they should effect this, not say the words. That's the start. First, that's a starter, but then to live Midot Harachamim, to be kind and just and merciful, and it has an element of truth, of emet in there, but it's, you could say, almost outweighed by all the other elements. Racham, Chanun, Chapayim, right? Yeah.
You please translate the words by Hashem.
And Hashem passed over his face. His face with a capital H or with a lowercase h. That's the ambiguity.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So if you look at the pshat in the Torah, Parshat Kitisa, which we'll be reading again not too long from now. Yeah. Next week.
That's right.
Today, next week. So Moshe Rabbeinu is in Nikrat Hatzur. He's in the cleft of the rock. Vayaba avor kvodi, right? Samtich v'nikrat hatzur, right? V'sekoti kapi alecha, right? Vayaba avor kvodi, v'ra'ida dachorai u'fanei lo yira'u. I hope I didn't butcher it too badly. And then Vayavor Hashem al Panav Vayikra. So Hashem passed by Moshe Rabbeinu, and he called out. Vayikra. Who called out? Pshat, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Hashem called out. He was teaching it to Moshe Rabbeinu. But there is a double ambiguity in the pasuk, in the grammar of it. And God passed before his face, and he called out. So all things being equal, if the subject didn't change, didn't mention Moshe's name, right? So Vayavor Hashem al panav, in quotation marks. I mean, Yisa Hashem panav elech. God doesn't literally have a face, but the point is, God's face means God's presence in the most direct way.
Problematic than what you quoted before.
No, not any more problematic. It's the same idea. It's not problematic. It's the language deeper Torah Kolashim B'nei Adam. Torah speaks the language of human being, of humanity, and therefore it uses an expression which is anthropomorphic. It describes human characteristics. The Rebbe Shalom is not literal, which is a basic tenet of our faith, obviously. And what? Panim and Achor refers to levels of relationship, levels of understanding, right? The same way that the face accentuates expression and has nuance and has, you could say, a certain relief to it. There's texture. The back is chalak. There's not much going on. Right? Some have interpreted this. It refers to the idea we don't understand a Kodesh Baruch Hu when he's doing things, but in retrospect, maybe we have some inkling of what just happened. Yeah, and it has to do also with our interpretive gesture. Do we see a Kodesh Baruch Hu in events that transpire in our lives in the world? Yeah, please.
How do you connect it to the statement that was Kesher Tefillin Hera?
Oto davar. Oto davar.
You assume because Kesher Tefillin is a me'achor.
Exactly. That's exactly what it means.
So
That's exactly what it means. Huh?
It tells you who is the subject.
True, but the question is, Vayavor Hashem al panav vayikra, since the subject didn't change, it sounds like, and Hashem passed before his own face. He covered his own face. Melamed she'dav HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzibur. V'herald ol Moshe, he showed him how to daven, which is how he said to Moshe, Hashem, Hashem, Kel Rachum T'chanun, Erech Apan. He revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu a way in which he, the Ribono Shalom, runs the world. And in revealing this to Moshe, he was also telling him, if you want to be forgiven for things, because it was after all, this is in the aftermath of the Chet Egel, do this before me, which is why on fast days and on Yom Kippur, and I just davened 2 days in Chabad of Boynton Beach, and they say Hashem Hashem Karach Muchan every day. There's not much enthusiasm in it, I'll be honest. Tachanun begins, right, with Hashem Nevagadnu, with the Vidui, and Keller Chapayim. Don't say it's not Kel Melech Yoshe, but it's Keller Chapayim, etc. And it ends. I was there 2 days. The first day I said, oh, I was probably spacing out. I missed when they did it, you know. But then the second day, the same thing happened. All right, the people have done for the Yom, don't have enough, you know. By us, we see it on a fast day. We see it on Yom Norayim. We're slichas. So it's responsive, and the responsive element is crucial. Is Vayavor Hashem al panav vayikra, and then the response is Hashem Hashem Karachim B'chanun. There's a back and forth connection between the Shliach Tzibor and the Tzibor itself. The point here is, though, Rabbi Yochanan is interpreting it this way in order to understand that this is how Moshe Rabbeinu learned a new derech of tefillah. Kodesh Baruch Hu is a Melamed Torah Lam Yisrael, but he's also Melamed Tefillah over here. He taught Moshe Rabbeinu, and subsequently to that throughout Jewish history. That's what we do. That's a major part of the liturgy. And that's why by Ne'ilah over and over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea. We're trying to repeat it again and again. So
similar to Maaseh Menorah. Hashem
had to show Moshe
because you couldn't
wrap your head around it.
Yeah, in the proper way.
Although that one might have literally had to do with how does it actually look, the intricate design. You're telling me in words, but show me. This has another element to it, which is what is going on over here. Someone's giving him like a lahavdil, a skeleton key. If the Jews are in trouble, so you'll say this before me. It does, all right? And I'll forgive them. Now, right?
I knew what the words mean, but the concept is that Hashem passed before
Moshe Rabbeinu. In other words, a higher degree of the divine presence passed before on the level of, well, not in this Gemara. And the Pshat, Vayavor Panav Vayikra, sounds like, I mean, you could read it, and some of Farshim do read it. We're not doing Chumash over here, but just so once we're on the subject, could read it as, and Hashem passed before Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu called out, Hashem Hashem Kirachim B'chanun Erech Apayim B'Rav Chesed V'Emet. By that reading, Kodesh Baruch Hu isn't teaching Moshe Rabbeinu a new seder of tefillah. Moshe Rabbeinu is appealing to Ribono Shel Olam, maybe a tefillah he learned some other time on Har Sinai, but he's appealing to the Ribono Shel Olam. God, you're so full of mercy. Please forgive us for the sin of the golden calf. It's another formulation.
another the capital F for face.
You're right.
That's the only.
Vayavor Hashem al panav, his face. So right, that's right. His capital H, capital F. Right.
Yeah, Schottenstein.
Oh.
Hashem passed before him, parentheses, Moshe.
Yeah. Hashem passed. That's the pshat of the pasuk. Is Hashem passed before Moshe in the Chumash? That's what it is. And he called out, right? But the way Rabbi Yochanan reads it is, he doesn't just say that. Rabbi Yochanan says, if it wasn't written in the Torah, I couldn't say this. But it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrapped himself up like a shliach tzibur. Vayashiv Shema panav, like he wrapped himself up. And then he taught Moshe Rabbeinu the following.
How does he pay, if the panav is Pnei Hashem,
Yeah.
how does he pass before his own face?
He passed before Moshe Rabbeinu. Before Moshe Rabbeinu's face.
Stand, but
He passed his.
Oh, Vayavor Shema panav, in Rabbi Yochanan's rendering, anthropomorphically, means he covered his face. Vayavor Shema panav means he covered over his face with something, like a talus. That's what it says.
He passed the talus.
The talus. He passed the talus over his face. He covered his face. Vayavor Shema panav, according to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan. Malim Meikar Kadav, Iyav Shala Omro. Malamed, Shinit Adav HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kishliach Tzibor. V'herlo L'Moshe Seder Tefillah. He wrapped himself up like a shliach tzibur, and he showed Moshe a state of tefillah. Amar lo. In teaching him this, he was saying to him, whenever the Jewish people called Zman Yisrael Chotin, because the worst possible sin was avodah zarah. Again, according to those days that maintained that it was avodah zarah. Let's go with that. It's avodah zarah. The dancing around a calf. It's avodah zarah. They just heard from Hashem. The total rebellion, total rejection of everything. They should be destroyed. Moshe Rabbeinu was even being offered by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to have a replacement of the Jewish people, with another people made out of Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe says nothing doing, right? I'm not going to allow it. Etc., right? So Hashem tells him, listen, not only now, but in the future also, they should do this Seder before me, and I'll forgive them. I'll forgive them.
So he's talking about the mazid in this case then.
Egel was mazid.
Right. I'm saying that this
Sounds like it.
But
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. Yeah. So going with the drasha of Rabbi Yochanan, we have to understand, he understands this pasuk to mean that Hashem taught Moshe Rabbeinu about these words. Hashem Hashem, okay? When we say them in shul, right? If you think about it, we start the Yud Gimmel Midot Harachamim with the words Hashem Hashem Kel Racham V'Chanun. We're talking to Hashem. We're addressing God. So God tells Moshe, when they're in trouble, let them call my name as follows: Hashem, Hashem, Kerachim, B'Chanan. Yes, that? Okay. But the Hashem, the question is are those two words part of the Yud Gimmel Midot Harachamim? Attributes of mercy on the face of it sound like the words like Rachum, Chanun, Erech HaPayim is slow to anger, Rav Chesed filled with kindness. That's mercy. What's Hashem? And that's where the Gemara explains, at least the pshat of the Gemara, which not all the Rishonim take in the same way, that the words Hashem mean God is not injured, damaged, or changed by the fact that someone sinned. There's a God. God is God before a person sins, and He's also God after a person sins, if they'll do tshuva. Rashi, that's Rashi, third line. Hashem, midat rachamim, ani merachim kodem shiachta, v'ni merachim achas shiachta imasuv. I have Rachmanis on both sides, before the sin and after the sin. Meaning, first of all, Rachamim is not only in the wake of sin, but it exists all time. Number one. Number two, the repetition of the name Hashem twice is to signify the idea that Kadosh Baruch Hu is still a Kadosh Baruch Hu, even if you've done something wrong. We're connected to the Ribono Shel Olam, i.e., we're created in God's image. We're the people, and then naturally we're the people of God. We're not impacting the Ribono Shel Olam, still the Ribono Shel Olam. And He has the Rachamim before, and He has the Rachamim after. That's what the Gemara wants to explain. Hashem, Ani hu kodem shiachta Adam. I'm 4 lines up on the narrow lines before you get the last 4 lines there, right? Vani hu la'achas shiachta Adam. V'yasa tshuva. Right now, but the next line of the Gemara throws a monkey wrench in that interpretation of Hashem as such. I'll explain why momentarily. Second to last line of the narrow lines. Kel rachum v'chanun. Amarav Yehuda. Brit kruta liyud gimel midot she'enan chozrot reikam. Shinemar hinyanechi koreit brit. So the next words, Kel rachum v'chanun, the God who is merciful and compassionate. So Rabbi Yehuda says there's a covenant being made here that they will not come back empty-handed, i.e., the Rebbeinu Shalom will respond favorably. Now, it might not be as favorably as we would like, but apparently they won't come back empty.
They'll respond.
They'll respond. Again,
Right.
I could find, unfortunately, way too many examples in Jewish history where I'm left with the question that's better than any answer I could come up with for myself. Where Jews said, Yud Gimmel Midot Rachamim, during the Shoah, during whatever, and it wasn't, and you learned, I don't know.
Hard. People say, pray to God, he didn't answer me. No, he did answer.
Yeah,
The
this
answer was no.
famous. Yeah, I once heard that from Esther Waxman, Elohim just passed away, Nachshon Waxman's mother. So the father, I remember he said that after his son was killed. Yeah. So
And he was from Shady.
he was saved at Plato, Rabbi Carp, sure.
It says it all.
Yeah. He also had that
I remember
crazy
he used
story.
to
Yeah.
say,
Yeah. Like being exiled and going through a river in the middle of the night. Anyway, the Hashem Hashem that's listed here in the Gemara. Did you notice that it doesn't mention a certain word, which when you look in Rashi on the third line of Rashi, that word already appears. Third line of Rashi. Do you see the word that is not in the Gemara, but Rashi inserts about Hashem Hashem? No, that's in the Gemara.
Where are you?
Look at the third line of Rashi. No. Just look at Hashem Hashem. What does Rashi say? Midat rachamim. Ani merachem kodem shiachta. Ani merachem achas shiachta im yashuv. But look now again in the Gemara. Hashem Hashem, 4 lines up, and the narrow lines. Hashem Hashem ani hu kodem shiachta adam. Vani hu lachas shiachta adam b'yasa tshuva. A translation. Hashem Hashem. I am before the person sins, and I am after the person sins and does tshuva. I am. Did the word rachamim appear anywhere in the Gemara?
No.
Missing. Rashi thinks that it's the beginning of the Midot HaRachamim.
So that Hashem is right.
So Rashi picks it up.
Rashi picks it up and says Hashem Hashem means rachamim, but the Gemara didn't actually say that directly.
So why?
And if you because according to Rashi, and we have this by the way in the beginning of the Torah, and we know this from every sefer you ever learned. The Shem Elokim is Midat Hadin. Shem Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei is Midat HaRachamim. That's generally true. Parshat Ayin Sham, Parshat Noach, there's a flip, which is a big discussion of itself. But Rashi, right away at the beginning of the Torah, Bereshit bara Elokim, Rashi writes, but Midat Hadin. Hashem thought he was just going to make the world with Midat Hadin, but he saw it wasn't going to subsist. It needed some Rachamim to go with it. So when you come to a Parak Bet, the beginning, right? Ela Toldot Shemayim V'Aretz Bihi Bar Am B'Yom Asot Hashem Elokim Eretz V'Shamayim. Yeah. Okay. So right. You understand why he put it in Shem Hashem? Yud Kei Vav Kei, because the world wasn't going to last on Din. It needed Rachamim as well. So Rashi's already saying at the beginning of Chumash. So Rashi sees it here, Hashem Hashem. It must be a Rachamim, but the Gemara didn't actually use the word Rachamim regarding the two words Hashem Hashem. And in fact, in Tosfot, as we saw, right? It's actually not clear that everyone agrees that Hashem Hashem is part of the Yud Gimmel Midot Rachamim. It might be a preamble. You're calling out Hashem Hashem, kill. Then you say Rachum v'Chanun Erech Apayim. Then you get to the Midot. Yeah.
Why is
That's what the Gemara says, which I said a moment ago. The pshat of the Gemara, I am God before a person sins, I am God after a person sins and does tshuva. It's the same God. You had a relationship with me, it got broken, you could fix it. That's what's written.
Answer.
That's the answer. There's a God. God is God before, and God is the same God after.
Didn't we learn in the previous although the man sins diminishes God?
We didn't. That's exactly the point. When man sins, it does not diminish HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It diminishes man. That's exactly the point. Because of the fact that we're connected to the Ribono Shel Olam, as it were, representing the Ribono Shel Olam, you might have thought, and I'll say it the other way. Let me say it the other way. The whole idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would allow himself, so to speak, kiviyachol, to be influenced by the words that I say or the actions that I do, it's a great mystery. So the Ribono Shel Olam kiviyachol is saying, yes, I allow you to influence me. So if you allow me to, if I'm allowed to influence the Ribono Shel Olam through my tefillah, through my actions, etc., in terms of his relationship with me, So maybe if I sin, what did I do? Maybe I impacted a Kodesh Baruch Hu negatively. Hashem, Hashem. I'm God before a person sins. I'm God after a person sins and a person does tshuva. Now, why does that have to do tshuva? Except to repair the relationship. But the point is, it's the same God. No impact. The question is, okay, is that in and of itself part of the Midot HaRachamim? Or no, it's just a preamble calling out to Hashem, which, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Hashem is modeling for Moshe Rabbeinu. This is what should happen. All right. By the way, I'll throw in just as a sidebar, in shul, whoever leads the davening, if you say you're leading slichot, so you say Vayavor Hashem apanav vayikra, so everyone responds. Del Shliat Tzibur is also says Hashem Hashem Karach out loud. Sometimes they rattle it off. Again, I'm not talking about a Tuesday and a Wednesday in the Chabad, but I'm talking about a weekday. Again, I'm not faulting them. It's just like the minute. But Yom Noraim, Slichas, whatever, it's going to come next week. So we have to say it out loud. You're going to meet a Rachamim. Including Shliach Tzibur has to say it out loud. Now it's responsive, but the Shliach Tzibur is responding after he says it. Okay. Look in Tosfot, Shlosh Midot. We saw this last time to my recollection, but we'll see it again because now we're living at a bit of a deeper level. Okay. Shlosh Midot. Omer Rabbeinu Tam Dishnei Shemot Rishonim Heim Shnei Midot. Kidavrin Hacha Ani Hashem Kodem Sheachta L'Rachem Alav V'nei Merachem L'Ach Sheachta Im Yashuv. Right. Hashem Midat Rachem Hu V'lo Kelokim Shu Midat Hadin. You see all that? All that. What is all that? That is all Rashi. He's just explaining Rashi, basically. Rabbeinu Tam agrees with the Zaidi. Agrees. That's what it is. It's the Midot. Avon Pesha v'Chata'av and Akei Him Nimnim B'Dalid. Those words, Avon Pesha Chata'av and Akei. Those are four different ones. Hidid B'Yoma Perak Shnei Seirim. Davon Elu Zidonot. Pshaim Elu Amordim. V'Chataot Elu Ashgagot. So they're all different categories of types of sin. You lost it? Tosfot. I said I'm looking on Tosfot. Shlosh Midot. So Omer Rabbeinu Tam, yeah? The Shnei Shemot Rishonim Hem Shnei Midot. Kidavrin Hacha Ani Hashem Kodesh Sheachta L'Rachem Alav V'ani Merachem L'Ach Sheachta Im Yashuv Hashem Midat Rachem Hu V'lo Kelokim Shu Midat Adin. Then Tosfot throws in Avon Upasha V'Chata'a V'Nakei. These are considered four different things. Avon, Pasha, Chata'a, and Akei. So as it writes in Perak Shnei Seirim, the Avon Elu Zidonot, Kshaim Elu Hamordim, the Chataot Elu Hashgagot. So it's standing on its own. Now watch this. Uve Megilat Starim de Rabbeinu Nisim. Remember I talked about him last week? Rabbeinu Nisim, he was, this is not to be confused with the Ran. Rabbeinu Nisim Gaon is in the yeshiva in Karaoun in Tunisia. And he is his main Talmud is well, I have to see if I get this right. He is a Talmud of Chushiel, and Chushiel has a son named Hananel, and I believe it's a Chushiel died, and Hananel was too young, so Rabbeinu Nisim took over. But then after Hananel took over, and that's Rabbeinu Hananel, who's also on our page just off to the right. All in Tunisia. So Rabbeinu Tam, or at least Tosfot, quoting from Rabbeinu Nisim, so it's a pretty early source. Ein mon Hashem Harishon, sheish psik ben Hashemot. The first name, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, if you look in the Sefer Torah, you won't see it, but if you look in a Tikkun, it's a psik, right? Adoshem. So the Bali Kriya, we know what they're doing. Yeah. You pause. So the Hachika Amakra, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shmo Hashem, right? The God is whose name is God, right? Because Baruch whose name is Yud Kei Vav Kei, Kara Yud Kei Vav Kei, Rachum v'Chanun v'Notzer Chesed Lalafim, Moneh B'Shtei Midot, the Notzer Chesed Hainu Mida Achat Lalafim Mida Acheret. So Notzer Chesed creates kindness, and that's one Mida. They're all trying to get to 13 because they know it's Yud Gimmel Midot. Harachamim. But how you're going to add it up, that's going to be the whole kunz. So if Rabbeinu Nisim Gaon removed the first Hashem Hashem, so now he's got to mix and match. So Notzer Chesed, Lalafim are two different midot. What is Lalafim? Is a midah acheret. Shemida tova meruba 500 amidat puranut. Datum ktiv al ribeim. Right? V'hach ktiv Lalafim. Right? Shila shiva ribeim l'sonai v'oseh chesed Lalafim. So alafim is 2,000, the minimum of plural of Aleph is alafim must be alpaim is the smallest number. It's at least 500 times because one is 4 and the other one is 2,000. So that's 500 times 500. So the point is that's another way to read the Yud Gimmel Midot. Now, uniquely here, you don't find it too often, is the Haggah. The Haggah is just over to the left. You should have it on your margin there.
Yeah.
Also, tiny little column. So, V'hachi ita b'psikta. This is what we find also in an early source in the Psikta. V'tomer tzion azavani Hashem, v'Hashem shchechani. Otan shtei midot. Those are two different things when the name Hashem Hashem came twice. Haftorah of the Shiv the Nechamta.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
this is it's the second. I think Parshat Akev maybe. Yeah. So stay midot, right? Azavuni. Twice did God abandon me. In other words, with two attributes did God abandon me. When we come welcome Kashya, but they're both. Psikta says they're both rachamim. So we need two different midot. It's the same midah twice. Lekach nira shem midah achat, v'achamehen shem hatoar, shekach maskirin oto al adnuto, lefishu adon al kol, kemo melach al shem malchuto, v'otokinoi midot rachamim. Who shelafi shehu adon al kol. In kol midat rachamim. Pause. It must be that's not two different midot. Hashem, kel racham v'chanun, etc. But rather there's Hashem, unmovable. Hashem, the king, the master. Repeating again, Hashem midat rachamim. Now, the fact that God is the Adon, He's the Melech, and He's the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Therefore, he must have rachamim because he's all powerful. So how could he not have rachamim? That's the basic gist of it. Point being, tachlis, it's not two different midot. It's one midah. The first mention of Hashem's name is just to mention God's name. The second one is the descriptor, the Shem Toar. Kel hu midat chozek. The word kel refers to mighty. Michamocha ba'elim Hashem. Who is like you among the mighty? So you refer to God as El, means you're referring to God as the Almighty. Humidat chozek. Ki biyad chazaka umechin mazon lechol habriot. Kedichtiv b'tehillim. Akfirim sho'agim lotaref ulevakesh me'el uchlam. Why from God as Aleph Lamed? El? Because God has the strength to carry it out. He's got the power to provide the food. Rachum.
So that's the midah of rachamim.
Is the capability to provide. That's supposed to be the point here. The power of midat chozek that the yad chazaka is used for providing, as a provider. That's how he's interpreting. Rachum gamhu midat rachamim v'lo midat Hashem. Not like the attribute of God where we just said Hashem, and the second Yud Kei Vav Kei refers to the adjective describing HaKadosh Baruch Hu in his essence as filled with rachamim, but rather there's another word there that's rachum, right? It's Hashem Kel rachum. But if you want to say Yud Kei Vav Kei, it means midat rachamim. So when I say rachum again, so the Gemara, we'll go 1 second. The Gemara here says v'lo midat Hashem ki harachim chalukim, because there's a split within the world of rachim. Ki damrin hacha kodem tshuva v'acha tshuva. There's the rachim God has before a person does tshuva, and the rachim Hashem shows after the person does tshuva. So apparently, the Yud Kei Vav Kei Shem Hashem, according to this version at least, Yud Kei Vav Kei is Hashem midat harachamim even before the person does tshuva, and rachum is after the person does tshuva. That's the Psikta's view, which is not what the Gemara said. The Gemara said Hashem midot harachamim. That's how Rashi saw it. First one is before the person sins. The second one is after the person sins, it does tshuva. Question.
They were living in a polytheistic society. Could it be referring to the Elim Hashem as a message that Hashem,
who is like you among the gods, in other words? Yes, in as much as the word gods, small g, meant the powers. They were coterminous. That's part of the problem. Yeah. Right. That's right. Right. At one point in Avodah Zarah, I think we're going to go down this primrose path too far, but in antiquity, they wanted to sacralize the word El. So they named one of the gods El. But you understand why they did that? Because it means mighty. So they wanted to give that name. Understand? It's a little bit lahavdil, but it happened in the opposite direction. That's what, according to Rashi and others, that's what it means, the Torah saying that in the days of Enosh, that they started to Vayachel, Az huchal likro b'shem Hashem. I already went to the Perush. What is Vayachel? It means they started. But as Huchal, as we lashon chol, they started to name objects b'shem Hashem. Pantheism, etc. They look at the cup. This is this isn't it godly? God made it, so we'll call it God. That's Avodah Zarah. So as Huchal, and by the by, not listed in the Torah Shebichtav, but Torah Sheba'al Peh, there's a great flood in the time of Enosh as well, where whole swaths of planet Earth are submerged. Most people don't know about that, but
Mepharshim have the end of the Aliyah by Yasuchal.
Yeah, yeah.
Then other Mepharshim say,
right, if it's Puranut, exactly, don't end there, right? Exactly. So point being that's why yes, who is like you among the gods, small g. But it's not that we believe that there are other gods. The point is there are other powers that are ascribed a sacral status.
Just this morning, it suggested that in Bereshit, it says or, it doesn't say Shemesh.
That's right.
And that's because Shemesh was the name of a Babylonian.
Yeah, the or Hagadol, Shalat Halyom, or yeah. That's another story. It says also all these names, the proper names, are all different things.
Ma'or
Hama'or Hagadol, that's true. That's right. Thank you. So the next one, V'chanun, right? Gam hu me'inyan acher ki midat rachamim hi shelo be'eit tzara. Midat rachamim is there's not a crisis going on. Ki b'terem tagia hatzara hu merachem. God will have rachamim. There won't be a crisis. Shelo tavo. Aval chanun. What is chanun? Hu shechonin be'eit hadchak ligol hatzoek. God will redeem the one who cries out in the time of crisis. Ki dichtiv, it says in Yeshaya, chanun yochnecha lekol za'akecha. Right? Umidazu, this midah of chanun. Kiviyachol shebal koach yeshlo lachon al hatzoeg af shelo kedin. The power of Hashem is such that He can use said power in order to find favor or show grace to the one who screams out, even if they're not actually worthy. Kidichtiv veyaki yitzak elai v'shamati ki chanun ani. Right, referring to the orphan and the widow. They're lacking. They'll cry out to me if you oppress them. I'll listen. Ki chanun ani. So that's what it refers to. Kilomar av bishvadin ba'avot liadcha. You got the surety, the object that you took from this poor person who is not able now to, by rights, gain it back for the nighttime because they didn't pay you back the loan, but you have to give it to them anyway. And if you don't, right? Hilvita alav ma'otcha. Give it back to them anyway. It's not Fimidat Hadin. Right. It's not Fimidat Hadin. But ki imitzak elai hamidahi kach she'eshmat sakato lefi shechanunani v'eni yachal lirot be'onyo. I can't. I mean, it's obviously kiviyachal. First of the wide lines, right? I can't abide that this person is going to suffer like that. They're poor. They needed a loan. You gave them a loan. You took an object as surety. It's their blanket. It's their clothing. They need it for nighttime. Give it back to them. But the whole point of it was so that they wouldn't default on the loan. Doesn't matter. They can't be in a state like that. So shmati chanun ani. V'gam yesh b'lashon chanun ma'an china. Even something that's not deserving. Chanun, right? V'kadamrina b'brachot v'chanotina shirachon al pi she'eno hagun. Even though not worthy, nonetheless, Hashem will give them, show them grace. Erech hapayim, slow to anger. L'tzadikim, v'lo rashayim. V'hein shtei midot. Erech hapayim. These are two different midot. Actually, strange. How could it be two different midot? They're two different things. Now you understand why? Because he clipped one. He said that the first Hashem Hashem, the psik that was not actually one of the Yud Gimmel Midot. It was the shame of Hashem. The second one was the Torah. Yeah. So Lafi Shehain Mishnei Inyan Bnei Adam V'Imida Tova. This is a good thing because it refers to two different kinds of people. So Erech Hapayim in two directions. Because Baruch Marich Apo V'Tochach Chozim B'Tshuva. As a result, people can do tshuva. In other words, the Rishon can become tzaddikim because they do tshuva. Of Yerushalmi Mitargim Minan Marchik Regez Shehu Merachik Mimenu Ligionot. God keeps at bay anger, meaning He keeps the legions away. Kidichtiv Patach Shemrot Tzarovi Vayotzei Et Klei Za'amo. He will open his storehouse and He'll take out the tools of His anger. By Me'eretz Merchak, those that are coming from a land that is far away. Right? And the point is, God keeps them, holds them in abeyance somehow. That's Erech Apayim. In other words, even if the people are deserving of some punishment, He'll hold it off to give them time to do tshuva. How exactly it's two midot, tzaddikim and rishayim in that? No, I'm not exactly sure. Sounds like for the tzaddikim, and the Rishayim, he'll hold it off. I don't know why it's two. Rav Chesed ve'emet, hein shtayim. Kedashinan k'tiv Rav Chesed, k'tiv ve'emet. HaKetzad, how could it be both of these things? Bitchila be'emet. U'shirosh eno olam itkayem b'chesed. Now, if you notice, both Erech HaPayim and Rav Chesed ve'emet are supposed to be some kind of a tension between two things. The tzaddikim, the Rishayim, the emet and the chesed are balancing each other. Rav Chesed ve'emet means that there's much chesed, and emet just stands on its own. It doesn't have any modifier. Yeah. Or you could read it as Rav. He's filled with chesed and emet, even though these two things are sometimes in tension, and in fact often in tension. Right. So Kate said. So how is it? It's a sequential thing, backwards. B'tchila be'emet started with that way. Right? The chesed therefore came first. Rav chesed to modify emet. Notzer chesed, that's achat. Right? Nosei avon vafesh v'chata'a heim shalosh v'nakel shavin kach pirish harav zal. Ad kan lashon haga. So another rendering here in longhand to every single one of the midot. And the psikta sounds a little bit like Rabbeinu Nissim Gaon, which makes sense because they're both earlier sources. The Psikta is actually earlier, I believe, than Rabbeinu Nissim Gaon. But the point is, not everybody agreed that Hashem Hashem are two different midot harachamim. What does the Art Scroll Machzer do? I don't know. You'll look next time. It actually lists them. 1, 2, 3. It lists them. It has to paskin like somebody. I'm going to guess that went with Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. That they're two different words because two different midot harachamim.
We'll see what the Koran says too.
And we'll see what the Koran does. Right. I'm going to guess Koren doesn't put numbers because they don't want to paskin where exactly it is because left is a machloka. That's my guess. An Art Scroll generally goes with Rashi and you have a machzor right there? Oh, okay. Maybe it's there on the page with the Matzot Sefer Torah on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Maybe it's there. Yeah.
You know,
Page 434.
There's no drop in it. I know we looked.
You know what? I was just thinking.
But
about
see if
that.
it's numbered. See if it's numbered. I'm curious. I don't know. It's just interesting to figure out because you realize when people are printers, they have to make these editorial decisions, but it makes a difference how you understand what's going on. It's not just semantics, but we're trying to understand. Is it listed with numbers? No numbers.
No number.
But in the Machzor, I'm telling you, there's numbers.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention, of course, but in the Machzor, there's numbers. There's no numbers there. Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? I was just thinking about it. Now it makes sense why we say Hashem Hashem Yarachim V'Chaim and the Shlosh Regalim when we take out
Sefer Torah, meaning
there's a sense of simcha, but yet at the same time there's a sense of coming before in the Beit Hamikdash.
Yeah.
When they used to say in the Beit Hamikdash Hashem Hashem that we're crying out, and then when we take out the Torah.
Okay, could be
for the
I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of
the
that.
Kriya that you read during the Shlosh Regalim. Have a sense of
It's interesting.
Bringing in Hashem.
By the way, but you don't say by Vorshim Panav. It's not responsive. Everyone just sings it together.
That's right.
We're close to Hashem, and that's the idea. We're brought closer to the Ribbon Shalom. It's very nice. Very nice. We're closer to the Ribbon Shalom. Dafka the Yom Tovim. So sharing that closeness. We're going through the Yud Gimmel Midot. We make the various petitions when the Aron Kodesh is open.
Right.
I'll open parenthetically for those here from the Ritual Committee or those who are interested in this. And my various travels, what people are doing in davening now is just all over, still, mamash all over the map. And I was just in Florida. I was quizzing people. What are you doing? What are you doing in your shuls? It's unbelievable. In one shul, they're still saying Avinu Malkeinu. In another shul, it's 4 chapters of Tehillim every day. In this shul, it's a printed laminated card. In another shul, it's already a sticker inside the siddur. And there was a guy there, a friend of mine from Modi'in, where I asked him if they're still doing what they had been doing before. So it jogged my mind. Monday and Thursday, when they take out the Sefer Torah, they open the Aron Kodesh, and before they say Brich Shmei, they say all sorts of chapters of Tehillim. 3 chapters of Tehillim. Every Monday and Thursday with the Aron Kodesh open. Why? Because it's 8 Ratzon when you open the Aron Kodesh, close to Hashem. So that's a still. Hashem Hashem Karachum B'Chan. We sing it. It's Yom Tif because we're close to the Ribbon Shalom, and there's a petition there. Ribbon Shalom. You're not allowed to make petitions Shabbos and Yom Tif. Ribbon Shalom. Say my name. I'm just coming before you. It's like an Aliyah L'Regel. I'm close. So it's along those lines. Anyway, it's going to be an interesting study. Someone's going to write up like who's davening what, where, and when.
That's why we don't do it. Even when Yom Tov comes on Shabbos, we don't say it.
Yeah, right.
That's right, but we still say Shabbat Himmelizim.
Yeah, because some things are honored in the breach. Some things are honored in the breach. Some things are honored in the breach. Right. Some things are honored in the breach. Right. Inachinami. The point I'm just making is, since he just said that, I mean, he's saying Hashem Hashem Karav Chanan Shalosh Regalim. The connotation there does not seem to be as urgent as Vayavor Shem al Panav Vayikra. It's responsive and it's right. The fact that there's a nigga and all that, it's okay. So there are more shitas. I mean, the Ritva, so many of them get in on the action to try to figure out what actually are the Yud Gimmel Midot Harachamim that are here. Okay, go to the wide line, the first of the wide lines. The same Rabbi Yochanan who a minute ago gave you the whole drasha with the Yud Gimmel Midot Harachamim, and back in the Gemara, first of the wide lines, right?
No, because
No, yeah, I don't think I'm read from before. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm Rabbi. There's another. I'm Rabbi Yochanan there. You see, now it's the same Rabbi Yochanan that you just read a minute ago. The Rabbi Yochanan said the Mali Mikra Shikatu. So clearly, it's like an anthology of things Rabbi Yochanan said, and they're all, of course, related to the topic at hand. So I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Gdola Tshuva Shemikarad Gzardina Shel Adam Shenemar Hashmein Lev Ha'amazeva Oznav Hachbeid Ve'inav Heshab. You should hasha, right? All different ways to block the nation from able to do tshuva. Pen your ebe inav was nav yishma ulevavo yavin v'shav v'rafalo. Right? The less the people realize how terrible things are. I mean, this was the point. Was part of the punishment. Hashem tells Yeshaya Navi, the beginning of the Sefer, go cause them to not be able to hear my word anymore, which was not that big of a problem for Yeshaya, unfortunately. They really didn't heed much of what he said.
This
in his life.
For Yitro.
In Haftarah for Yitro, right? So what's the idea? Yeah, great. Parvav. What's the idea? Rabbi Yochanan is trying to explain, but if they would do tshuva, they could heal whatever is wrong. But in the case of Yeshaya, that part of the punishment was that Hashem was telling me, Yeshaya, go tell them and block it. I mean, there's a big discussion. Actually, it's what Hashem wanted, or Hashem, like with Moshe Rabbeinu, I'll erase them and I'll start with you. Again, he's waiting for Moshe to say, no way. So what's Yeshaya going to say? Ayin Sham, what Yeshaya does and doesn't do.
Was it worse? It seemed like it was worse with even Yirmiyahu, where they ignored him even more than Yeshayahu.
I don't know if it's a contest, but who's worse? Yeah. I don't know. It's a toss up, to be honest. Yirmiyahu is beaten badly. Yirmiyahu is put in prison.
Yeah.
For a long time. It's not exactly clear what happened to Yirmiyahu, but Yeshua he's killed in Mitzrayim. Yeshaya is killed in both cases by fellow Jews. Yeah. It's tough business to be a prophet. Maybe that's why there aren't any running around anymore, as no one wants to say. But the point is, Rabbi Yochanan a minute ago. What?
Is it tougher to be a rabbi or?
I'm ducking. I'm putting on my Kevlar before I go out to the next year. Rabbi Yochanan first said, look at the koach hatfila. And now Rabbi Yochanan says, look at the koach of tshuva. And just beautiful, the same Rabbi Yochanan, who darshans, if they're in trouble, let them daven, now says, and by the way, tshuva can tear up even the decree that's already been rendered. The tefillah part, they're not going to come back empty-handed. Doesn't mean you're going to get everything you want or even partial, but if tshuva could even tear up a gzeira. It's the same Rabbi Yochanan. Amar le Rav Papa l'Abaye v'dilma lifnei gzar din. Amar le v'Rafalo. Rav Papa, who lived later, says about Rabbi Yochanan's memra, says to Abaye, maybe that's only before the decree is actually given that you can tear it up. No, says Abaye. V'Rafalo ktiv, right? It can be healed. Ezu dav shtarch refuah. That must be that the decree was already made, and that's what needs a refuah. Okay. I think I have to stop here actually because I have 28 minutes to the next year and I have to make 3 calls. So this is it. It's gonna be too late to call people after. Okay, so we'll have to stop. We'll begin with Meitvei on Monday. Monday we meet again in a few days. It's good. It should be. Ala Nisim, right? Monday. Okay. See you then, Jeff. Monday night, and someone. Let's hope that 7:15. Let's hope that Ronnie's Mincha time switches sometime soon. Okay, I'd count for tonight.